Hi, everybody. It's Monday evening. It's region weather meteorologist Matt Wentz. I want to give you an update on our winter storm heading our way. How bad is it actually going to be? We'll give you the realistic expectation for that, as we usually do. And I also want to look long range. I know we did this last night on our Sunday evening edition of Region Weather Live, but there's some more clues as to how we're going to end January and start February around here. In terms of that Arctic air coming down, and the pattern, at least with this afternoon's model runs, looks very active and very snowy. So I wanted to show you some of that, and we'll discuss that. But more importantly, I want to get you through the snow that is on the way as we go on into Wednesday. So we'll talk about that. We've got a little bit more to talk about as well, and we'll answer your questions as we always do on this special edition of Region Weather Live. And happy Monday to you, everybody. I hope everything's going well as of today. It was a nice, quiet day weather-wise, so that was kind of nice. And, you know, I have a feeling that days like today are going to be a little bit more rare over the next week and a half. In fact, there's one model run today. It was actually the Euro that has consistent snow on us for the next 7 days straight, starting Wednesday. Once we get into it, I'll show you that. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we'll see what happens here. As always, I know this is a special edition, but we get a little extra coverage for our sponsors as well. Just, you know, a lot of people ask, how can we help you out? How can we support you? You do enough by just trusting us in our forecast. But if you have a chance, support our wonderful sponsors. They keep all this for free. Ewing Mechanical Services, anything HVAC related in your house, they're wonderful. They're family-owned business in Northwest Indiana out of Crown Point. Tiger Plumbing, our area favorite plumber, they come out for free, which that blows my mind that they still do that. Gas prices are down, I get it, but it still costs them to do that, and they're wonderful as well. Discovery Travel, if you want to get out ahead of the snowstorm. It's not really a snowstorm, it's a system that's going to produce some snow, let's put it that way. Discovery Travel is the place to go with that. They're a local travel agency that will plan any getaway you possibly want anywhere in the world. I don't think they plan trips to the moon yet. I need to ask them, but they'll just take care of you, which is great. And Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram out of Valparaiso. Okay, let's get into the maps. I want to say hi to you guys first. A lot of people joining on our YouTube channel. I appreciate that. Dave, hello to you. Stacy, good evening. Sarah, hi. Jeff, good evening to you. You're welcome for the update. No problem. Don Z says, bring on the snow. Good evening to you, Susan. Russ, hi to you as well. And let's see, Cameron, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. And Dave, you're absolutely welcome for sure. Good evening, Hudson from Indianapolis, where I think that's going to be the epicenter of the storm as it looks right now. All right, so let's dive into it here. Now I'm going to start somewhere different. Okay, I'm going to start not snow related, not winter storm related. I'm going to start cloud cover related because I got a comment today about the clouds and how we've been locked in the clouds and we're just sick of clouds. And I get it. I am too. I feel like the vitamin D is really lacking. I've never been more pale. All right. And I'm not ashamed. It's fine. But when are we going to get out of the clouds? I want to answer that question first. Then we'll dive into the forecast. Okay. It's going to be a while, folks. Tomorrow is our slimmest chance to have a peak of sunshine or two. If we can break the clouds apart tomorrow, I think it'll be a blessing from above. But here you go. As we go through time here, this is your cloud cover. This is tonight, so you're not going to see it. We may have some partial clearing tonight. Again, you're not going to see it. This is tomorrow, okay? Notice how we've got a lot of clouds around. There are some holes in the clouds from time to time. Oftentimes, these stratus clouds are just so stubborn and really hard to erode this time of year, okay? So take this model with a grain of salt, but our sun peak chances tomorrow, because Tuesday night and Wednesday, this is all cloud cover from the storm system moving in. We stay in cloud cover. This is Wednesday night and Thursday. Pretty cloudy around here. We'll have some snow around. This is Friday. You get this little clearing in here Friday morning. Problem is that's 3 a.m., so we probably won't see it. Clouds fill back in with a Clipper system. Saturday, maybe a little clearing. That's like 3 a.m. So there's that. More clouds Saturday. And here you go next week. Once we get whatever system this is this weekend out, do we go sunny for a little bit on Monday? Next Monday? Maybe. All right. what a stretch we've been in, though. And you can see, after that, it's fantasy land. This would be nice if this sets up big old clearing in the plain states. Again, remains to be determined. But in terms of the cloud cover, folks, we are pretty locked in. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Stay healthy. Okay, eat your vegetables, eat your fruits, get a little sun lamp in your office, whatever that happens to be. Okay. All right, so here we go. Let's talk about the storm system moving in. I'm just going to precursor this for those of you that are very transient and watching these and don't stay tuned for the whole thing. I'm just going to say this. You're probably hearing a lot on social media about this. Everyone's trying to get you to click on their website. This is going to be a very manageable snow for us, okay? Is it going to be impactful? Because that's really what matters. Yes, we're going to have some snow-covered roads, but this is not going to be a blockbuster storm. This is not a huge storm, okay? I don't think we're close enough to the center of low pressure to get the really, really heavy stuff, but I think we're going to have snow. And nothing has really changed since last night when we talked about this on our typical weekly Sunday evening Region Weather Live, okay? So let's get into the latest model runs. They have changed a little bit, okay? So here's what we're talking about tomorrow. Easy day, easy going, light wind, maybe a sun peak, otherwise cloudy. Temperatures very seasonable. We'll be in the 30s. Here comes our system out of the Gulf. Right now it's spinning down towards Arizona. It's bringing lots of snow to areas like Flagstaff, who have seen one of their snowiest Januaries on record, which is great for them, especially all the skiers. They actually have mountains out there. This will head into Texas tonight. Texas is going to get some heavy snow from this. Amarillo, Lubbock areas going to see some heavy snow, probably 5 to 8 inches for them. And then eventually that snow comes through Oklahoma City. You see it here coming up through Missouri. It's a big old low pressure system that'll really start to deepen tonight and tomorrow. There's going to be severe weather on the southern end of this whole thing. So this storm as a whole, you can call it a winter storm, and it's going to be very impactful for a lot of people. In fact, there's like 1,200 miles worth of winter storm warnings or winter storm watches out from Michigan, New York, Ohio, all the way back down towards New Mexico. So it's going to be an impactful storm. There's going to be some tornadoes down in Louisiana, Gulf Coast, Mississippi, areas of southern Alabama as well. So it's going to be a big event. But for us, let's kind of hone it in on a local scale. What we're going to be watching tomorrow night into Wednesday morning is this big old area of moisture come north into this colder air, and it'll be all snow for us. Okay, there's no question in terms of the system, in terms of what the precip type is going to be. So that makes it kind of easy. We just have to forecast how big the flakes are and how much they're going to pile up. All right, so here we are. This is Tuesday night. This is now Wednesday mornings, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And notice how we start to get some snow in here. Heaviest snow is always closest to the low. So here's your actual low pressure center right near Memphis. Remember, we talked about that last night, how the models fluctuate back and forth around Memphis. This is where the low is. Your heaviest snow is almost always on the northwest side of that low, and I mean just on the northwest side. So right in here is the real heavy stuff. There's also going to be a heavy burst initially when this thing moves in. That's the push in the atmosphere that helps create real strong lift out in advance of that system. So you tend to get some heavy snow in the north end, but that is brief. The heaviest snow is usually on that northwest side, and that's the one that sticks around. So here's this low. We start with some snow around here Wednesday morning. This is before the morning commute. We'll likely have light snow becoming moderate at times. I think we're going to have some snow on the ground and some slippery travel Wednesday morning. As we go throughout the day, that low pressure center still expected to pass down to our south. So this is down towards Evansville. Notice where the heaviest snow is with this. This is the latest HER run, and it's been pretty consistent. But you can see where that low goes just down to our south. So here in the region, we're just missed by the heaviest stuff. And if that's the case, which I kind of think it is, the models have been pretty consistent with this, we would just have a general light to moderate snow for much of the day. It looks to be pretty persistent. Sometimes we can get some dry air lobes in here as this wind is pulling in drier air from Canada. So it doesn't always look persistent on radar. You notice when you look at this, it's all constant snow everywhere. But in truth, when you actually look at the radar on this day, we may have, some holes in the snow whatsoever. But anyway, the heaviest snow looks to pass down towards Indianapolis. Okay. That's where we were expecting it yesterday. And that means we miss out on any real decent snow out of this. And again, nothing's changed since yesterday. So if you watched last night, our forecast is still on track, okay, in terms of accumulations, all that stuff. Once this starts to go by us, we start to turn on the lake effect. You can see that signal. Look out over the lake. See the little band that develops there with the northeast wind that brings some kind of lake snow, which would actually be lake enhanced snow into Wisconsin. And then as the system curls around, we'll take that lake effect snow, kind of bend it towards Chicago and then back into the region. So we're not done with the snow yet. as this is pulling on out Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, because we still have some lake effect that will likely take over Wednesday evening and Wednesday night. That will last through Thursday as well. So we could add some lake effect onto this. Okay, so that's the latest HRRR run. This doesn't go all the way through. This goes through Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. Okay, so let's take snow totals through that. Let's talk about snow totals. This is the latest, again, HRRR run. This is one of the high-res short-term models. The HRRR is not bullish at all. And notice the amounts down towards Indianapolis, anywhere from 5 to 7 inches of snow. Okay, maybe some 8s in here as well. As you get closer to us, you got Newton, Jasper County here in the 4s, Lake, Porter, LaPorte counties in the 2 to 4 inch range, and then Chicago in the 1 to 2. Okay, and notice where that strip of snow goes. South Bend has 5 or 6 over towards Fort Wayne. They're kind of in epicenter of this. Indianapolis, as I mentioned, probably 7 or 8 or so. That's just what this model says, okay? I'm going to show you a couple other models that we look at. The first one I'll show you is the NAM. And this one is a little bit more bullish on the snow in Northwest Indiana. Same time frame on this. You notice it's still got a good 5 to 8 down towards Indianapolis, and it has more of a 2 to 5 look across the region. I would tend to agree with this. Not that I agree with this model. I mentioned yesterday, I think this looks like probably a 3 to 6 incher. I still think the same thing. I think this is going to be a 3 to 6 inch event for us. The 3 is going to be if that low passes a little bit further down to the south and that heavy strip of snow stays away from us. I think we get 3 inches out of this, which isn't a big deal, right? If it passes a little bit closer to the northwest, which is certainly possible, and I'm talking like 10, 20 miles, which isn't a big deal in terms of scale, we could be talking more 4, 5, 6 inch totals. Okay, we'll see. That is not including lake effect. So the lake effect after this will probably bring an additional 1 or 2, I would imagine, to Northwest Indiana, and that would be Wednesday night and Thursday. Could we see higher amounts? We could. It's lake effect. It's kind of fickle. So that would add a little bit to it. But overall, this isn't a huge snow, but it's an area-wide snow, and we will be blanketed in some white snow by the time we get to Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night. I do think roads are pretty slick Wednesday morning. I think that Wednesday evening commute's kind of rough as well, just because it's going to be falling. All right. So there's that. Temperatures aren't going to be too bad with us. So there's also that. All right, let's go a little bit longer term. I'm going to show you 2 of the global models as well. We're going to look at the latest Euro in terms of what that looks like snowfall wise. We're going to look at the GFS as well. I'll show you the Canadian because there are other models that we need to look at. So here's the Euro. It takes that low right over Memphis up through Evansville. Notice the Euro's a little bit further south by like 25 miles. So that brings the heavier snow into Indianapolis and areas down south of that. And there's your lake effect back behind this Thursday, Friday, before more activity comes in. We'll talk about that in a second. But let's strictly look at snowfall totals for both of these. And let's go to this. We're going to go to this. And the Euro, you can see pretty similar to that. This is through Thursday now, where it's got some higher totals down towards Indy and points south, where it's saying maybe up to 10 inches of snow for them. For us, it's got a general 3 to 5. Okay. That's the latest Euro run. The GFS, a little bit further north and west. So you see that strip of snow getting close to our southern counties. It's got a general 3 to 5 for us as well. And then the Canadian model will just show that for kicks. Lesser amounts down to the south. It's not as impressed with this system. And it's got a general 3 to 5 for us here as well. So that's why I feel comfortable saying 3 to 6. And again, the 6 is at the higher end of things. And that's not including lake effect. That'd be if something sets up like a little trowel region or some frontogenetic band, which is the band of heavy snow you have on the backside of a storm system. That's where that would come from. Okay. All right. Last thing I want to do here, I want to talk long term because we've got some cold air that's going to make a return. I also want to talk about what happens in terms of snowfall after this. So let me just show you this. This is the latest Euro today. Let's go actually to the 12Z, so it won't be the latest, but this is the longest trend. Look at the snow. This goes all the way through February, okay? This is this system, okay? Not a big deal, but some snow. But watch what happens. Look what happens by the end of the month. The Euro lights us up like a Christmas tree with over a foot of snow. Some totals downstate, maybe around 20 inches. The Euro brings in consistent systems after this. And so just after we get done with this one, we're watching a couple more right on the heels of that. The timing is going to change on that. Strength's going to change on it. Path's going to change on it. But the systems in general should likely be there because models do a really good job picking up on storm systems, just not all the details. So after this one goes through, We have lake effect Wednesday into Thursday. All right, should be pretty light. But then on Friday, we're saying goodbye to lake effect. So we'll probably have some morning flurries. That goes out. We bring a clipper system in here. We get clipped by it, no pun intended. But behind that, we get more snow showers. And then the Euro develops this band that develops Saturday night and a Sunday out ahead of another storm system that's developing in the plains. So watch this. Saturday and the Sunday, it brings another system right through the heart of Indiana again. And again, that doesn't look to have a lot of Gulf of Mexico moisture, but still, it's got area-wide snow. And then behind that, there's yet another one next week, something like that may develop. And again, that's one to watch. Just because it doesn't have snow on us now, the features of that come together to form a pretty good storm. So we're talking in the next week, we're talking at least 4 storm systems that move through here, maybe 5 if you count that clipper. And it's certainly going to be pretty active around here in terms of all that. And the Euro's not alone in terms of snowfall. Let's go back to the snowfall one more time. So this is what the Euro says through February 2nd. GFS is pretty consistent with that. It's got widespread foot plus of snow over us, and not just us, but almost all of the Indiana, Ohio, Illinois corridor there. And then the Canadian does the same thing. I mean, it's got heavier amounts as well. So we're certainly going to turn snowier around here to end the month. And the other thing is we're going to turn colder. I showed on our Facebook page the lobe of cold air, the polar vortex, which is always going around, comes down into Canada this week. And then next week it gets pulled down in the lower 48. And we're the recipients of that. I don't think it's be quite as bad as Christmas was, right? With that cold air. That was crazy how fast that got here. This just looks like January cold. So here's some of the preliminary numbers on it. This is just the what am I looking at here? What did I pick here? I know it's the GFS. Oh, it's the deterministic. So all the global models put out a bunch of ensembles. They'll run the forecast over and over and over and over again, and you get all these outputs. The deterministic puts all those outputs together and kind of averages it out. All right. So this is the average of the GFS in terms of numbers, and these are your high temperatures. And this is in Valparaiso. Notice how we're in the 30s this week. Okay, that's when we get all the snow. But look at the plunge. I mean, the potential's there. I don't know if we're really going to have 3 degrees on the 4th. Okay, we look for trends with this, and the trend is that we turn very cold around here to end the month and to start February. Perhaps teens for highs, maybe single digits for highs. We'll see. Let me look at this is the Euro deterministic. It doesn't go out quite as far. Actually, that doesn't go out far at all. Let me go back to 12Z. You can see the Euro's on it as well. I mean, it's got cold air coming in here, teens for highs, maybe some single digits. And then the national blend of models, this is the one that takes all the major models, puts them together based on how they've been behaving over the last couple of weeks. And that even has us cold as well to enter February. So regardless of, the snow, we're going to get cold around here as we're going to end the month and start February. And what's interesting is, the fact that our temperatures are right near freezing right now. When temperatures are right near freezing, remember, the warmer the temperature is, the more moisture it can hold. Okay. A lot of people will say to me, when we get a heavy rain event in the winter, they'll say, Matt, thank goodness this isn't snow, because we would have a ton of snow. Well, it doesn't quite work that way because, oftentimes when we get rain events this time of year, it's in the 40s and 50s. That 40 and 50 degree air can hold a lot more moisture in it than a 32 degree air mass can, or than a 0 degree air mass can. Remember when we had that system come down at Christmas, it was so bitterly cold that the snow was kind of weird. It was all tiny flakes. It was a powdery snow. It wasn't the big fat flakes because the air couldn't hold moisture to it. So my point being, the fact that we're in the 30s during these snow events all the way through the weekend, even upper 20s, we can crank out some good snow from these because the air can hold a lot of moisture. So that's why I think this will be a decent wet snow as we go into your Wednesday. And we can get some good totals out of it because we've got enough, warm air around. Once we get into this range, when we're falling back into the teens and 20s, we can't quite crank out as much snow. So, I wouldn't expect a big snow event with these temperatures this cold, and it becomes fluffier. The colder temperature is, the fluffier the snow is. Once it's near freezing, you have a heavy wet snow. So my point being with that scientific lesson is the fact that once we get colder, I think we're going to say goodbye to the heavy snow event potential. We'll have snow around. But in terms of these real big snowfalls, we have to have temperatures in the upper 20s, low 30s to do it. Okay. Hope that makes sense. All right. So let's answer your questions here on this Monday evening, and then we'll get you on your way. And we'll go from there. Okay. All right. So let's watch. Let me see what you got here. I'm going to start with Julie. Ask a good question. Hold on. First, I saw Andrew's comment. He ran and hid from his car. You saw the glowing ball in the sky today? Andrew, tell us what it's like. That's great. All right. Julie asks, will this be a fluffy or wet snow in Maryville? It sure was beautiful sunny today. Oh, you did see some sunshine. I didn't see much sun at all today. Yeah, so we talked, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you, Julie, watching every Sunday. That's awesome. And again, I'm here in Northeast Ohio. We haven't had sun in weeks. It's great. Okay, so in terms of the snowfall, it's going to be a wet snow. What's going to happen towards the end of the event when we get to some lake effect on Thursday, that will turn a little bit fluffier, but not that fluffy. Most of this is going to be a wet snow. It's going to have good water consistency to it. Mark's working on plowing here. Let's see. Russ says, are you thinking there will be a dry start to lower numbers and with temps being around 32, 33, some melting on contact? Yeah, Russ, I think you're absolutely right with that. With temperatures near freezing, the salt's going to work. Pre-treatment's going to work as well. There's no big rain out ahead of us, so NDOT will be able to pre-treat. I don't think the numbers are going to be lower. I'm pretty happy with those numbers in the 3 to 6 inch range, simply because once we put down a layer of snow, it doesn't matter what the temperature is, because that layer of snow acts as a freezing point where everything else can kind of pile up on it. But again, the temperatures are going to be on our side, being at 32, 33. So there's that, and again, the pre-treatment and the salt is going to work. So, if you're average homeowner and you've got a sidewalk or driveway and you put some salt down on that, it should work just fine unless the snowfall rates get heavy enough to kind of overcome that. And then it should melt off again. No bitterly cold air with this, so that's a good thing. Let's see. What's this? Susie says, my 7-year-old just whipped her head at me when he said 20 inches. She was excited. Yeah, it's not us. But boy, the potential's there to really pile up some snow over the next 7 to 10 days. Let's just say that. Okay, Christopher says, so what are the chances of running into snow from here to Grand Rapids this Friday, Saturday? Is it a better idea to stay home? Chris, I think you'll be okay. You're going to run into snow, but nothing huge. After this storm system goes through, there's going to be lake effect around Thursday and Friday. Why don't I just show you instead of talking about it? There's going to be lake effect up in Michigan Thursday into Friday, and then we have to watch a Clipper system come in. Neither of those are really blockbuster systems, though, and I think they'll be manageable as long as you're a good winter weather driver. And even that, I don't think it's going to be too bad. So let's look at this. Here's Grand Rapids up in here. Here we are. And here's your Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, so here's your Thursday, some lingering lake effect. That kind of goes away. Friday, there's just flurries around. And then Saturday, that's my only concern, is this Clipper that comes in. So this comes in Friday night into Saturday. And that would probably bring a good 1 to 3 inches of quick snow up near Grand Rapids. And notice the Euro kind of ending it with maybe a little rain, some gloppy raindrops around here mixed in. So again, I don't think it's going to be too impactful, but that Friday night into Saturday system we'll have to watch for sure. Debbie talking about the groundhog already. Very good. Oh, Eric, I appreciate that. Yeah, no problem. If we have to talk snow anywhere we are, I think we'll take it for sure. I appreciate that. Phoebe, please explain how cold air cannot hold as much moisture. Phoebe, I think I did. Unless there's something else that that I didn't cover in that. Yeah, cold air can't hold as much moisture just because, you're talking about the dew point. You know how we talk about dew point in the summertime? The dew point's what measures actually how muggy the air feels, how sweaty it gets. It's not the humidity value. The dew point's measuring actually how much moisture the air can hold, right? And in the wintertime, when you have a 32, the dew point can never go above the temperature. So when your temperature is 32, the dew point, or the amount of moisture the air can feel, can't go above that. So it just holds less. It doesn't hold as much. And as that number goes down, the dew point also goes down. So you can't have that. Gabrina asks, chances of flight cancellations on Thursday, trying to get to New York City. Gabrina, I don't think so. I think it's going to be very manageable. Even Chicago is going to get maybe 2 to 4 out of this. So here's your Wednesday. You're probably flying out of O'Hare, I would imagine, or Midway. And you see, Wednesday, they're going to have some snow. Thursday, there's still going to be snow around, but I don't think it's going to be too bad. Now, the New York City, if that's what you're talking about, I don't think they get a lot of snow from this. I think they get mainly rain again. Yeah, so here's New York City right in here, and they get some snow initially Wednesday, but Thursday it's just rain, and then they barely get any snow out of this at all. So I don't think you have a problem at all getting to New York City as we go into what is that, Thursday? You said. JD, what are we looking at Wednesday for Valpo? So I think what's going to happen Wednesday is that snow develops pre-dawn, light to moderate at times. I think the heaviest stuff's going to stay away from us. It's just going to be a general snowfall. Should be pretty consistent throughout the day Wednesday. The one thing we'll have to watch tonight, or I mean by tomorrow night, is if that track changes at all. Okay, we're talking a margin of error of about 20 to 25 miles with the exact track of this low, because it will be much different if this low shifts a little bit further north and west. And that would bring some of the Indianapolis 5 to 8, maybe 10-inch totals a little bit further into our area. So, but as of right now, steady as she goes. I think the forecast looks good. We talked about this last night. I think it's going to be a 3 to 6 inch event for us. Don't focus on the 6. I know that's the big number, and everyone thinks we didn't get 6. It was a dud. I think a lot of us will end up three or 4. And again, we'll see. 3 to 6 is our range, because that's going to be the range across the region. At least that's my prediction. Okay. There you go, Rick. The Laporte effect on cloud cover. Oh, absolutely. The Great Lakes are some of the cloudiest spots in the entire country because of the lakes, because of the lake effect clouds. We don't just get lake effect rain and snow. We get lake effect clouds too, which there you go. Let's see what we got here. Tim, thanks for commenting on that. Tim says trips to the moon with Discovery Travel are not available, but yet. Tim did say a while ago back on their Facebook page that there's a new cruise line. Boy, Tim, I want to check that out. There's a new cruise line that just looks amazing that's launching next year. I saw the commercial on TV as well, but boy, get a head start on that. That'd be great. Izzy's still waiting on snow in central New Jersey. Izzy, it's amazing how snow-free you've been in New Jersey. New York City as well. Boston getting really their first kind of snow today. Philadelphia has been quiet as well. It just takes a little bit of time. And here's the deal for you, Izzy, out in, I just dropped my arm off the table. For you out in New Jersey, this cold air that's coming in later this month may set the stage for a better February for you. It can only get better in terms of snowfall, right? But the reason why you haven't had any snow out there is because it's just been too warm, right? You've had the systems, and the snow's been inland, not many of them. But if this cold air can get all the way down towards Tennessee and then kind of filter east towards the East Coast, that would be a better chance for you to do that. Okay. Mark, I appreciate that. Mark is my chief advertiser on here. I appreciate you, buddy. That's awesome. Victor, that's a good question. Victor asks, would you say Indianapolis will be the jackpot for snow? I think so, Victor. Yeah, Indianapolis has a really good chance of being really close to where that low goes. So I would say they'd be the jackpot for it. I'll pull up those totals again on here. And again, they don't fluctuate much. I think a good 5 to 8, maybe 10 for Indianapolis. It just depends on the track of that low. And I don't want anyone to ever think that we're being lazy saying that, okay? I mean, the weather's extremely complex. You know that from talking to me. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. There's your totals. And that's the Euros thinking in terms of this event. But guys, in terms of forecasting, snow is so much more complicated than rain. I hope everyone knows this. And meteorologists most of them aren't trying to hype events up to, well, I can't say that because some do. All right. I want you to know this for me. I will never hype an event up. Okay. I'm keeping it real. The system's going to be manageable. Okay. Big deal. It's going to snow. There you go. But anyway, meteorologists have a really tough time in general forecasting snow because it's 10 times more complex than rain. Rain, we're measuring how much water is going to fall from the sky. Okay. Snow, we're measuring how much water is going to fall from the sky, but we're also having to measure based on the temperature profile from here all the way up to the clouds, what kind of snow that's going to be. If all of this was a huge fluffy snow adds up and you get bigger accumulations because it's fluffy, okay? It stacks up on top of each other. There's not as much moisture in it, whereas heavier wet snow like this tends to compact. So these snowfall totals you're looking at are taking into consideration the fact of what kind of snowflakes you're going to have based on the temperature profile over your house, wherever you happen to be, which happens to change everywhere as well. If you get a little sliver of warm air up at, 15,000 feet or wherever it happens to be, that can change the whole thing. It's so complex to forecast snow. It's not as easy as rain. Not saying rain is easy, but I don't think people realize that. how tough it is to forecast the exact snow amount, because it's not just how much is going to fall. It's the temperature profile and what kind of flakes you're getting. Also, those kinds of flakes change during the snowstorm, right? So you may start as fluffy snow, which could add up, and then it turns into a slushy snow with small flakes or grapple or whatever it happens to be. It's very complicated. That's all. So there you go. So that's why snowfall forecasts aren't always as accurate. And sometimes they can overachieve because you have a different type of flake because your temperature was 2 degrees warmer versus another type of flake. Okay. Rick, you're welcome. Absolutely. Joe, you're welcome as well. Andrew, you're welcome as well. Go Bengals. Sure, I'll say that as a Browns fan. It's okay. Yeah, and it's pretty quiet here tonight. Yeah, it's usually quiet in the evenings. Everyone kind of does their work, and then we get our show on at 11 here. Jennifer says, kiddos in my daycare want to play in the snow. I'm in Chesterton. Will they get their wish? They will. Everyone's going to see snow from this, so they will get their wish. It's just a matter of how much. Susan, you're right. Lake effect is a mess. It really can be. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. It takes experience of forecasting lake effect to be able to forecast lake effect. You have to know what's going on. So there you go. Eric says, Matt, 80% of weather videos, weather info on the internet come from weather hobbyists. Sadly, real meteorologists underrated and underappreciated. I appreciate that comment. You know, and I don't ever want to try to create value in myself because I'm a meteorologist. You know, there are a lot of weather hobbyists that do a great job as well. But a lot of those, and especially on YouTube, they're just so dramatic. And it's like this big click here kind of article, major storm. Remember that one we talked about a couple weeks ago? A very popular weather blog. This kid's making millions from it. He says like major storm from coast to coast. And he has like this huge graphic of like this fire thing coming across the US. And that was from some jet stream pattern, which has nothing to do with the actual storm. Oh, it's just a mess. So that's that. So Victor, this page, I used to be the chief meteorologist back in Maryville, Indiana. So just outside of Chicago. So that's what this page is for Northwest Indiana alone, because Chicago doesn't cover Northwest Indiana like they should. So this page started way back then when I was the chief meteorologist in Maryville. That station decided to not do news anymore. So I ended up going down to Georgia at NBC, and now I'm at NBC in Cleveland. Working here. This is where I'm from originally. So I'm doing TV side of things here. This is my job that I love, you know, being here at home. But I've kept up this Northwest Indiana page since I've left. So that's kind of the story behind it. And I still have friends and family back there. And I don't feel comfortable ever not forecasting for Northwest Indiana because of the coverage Chicago doesn't give, especially during lake effect events. So there's that. Maxwell, no, I don't think. He asked, do you think this will be our last Arctic outbreak of the season? I don't think so, Maxwell. I really think we're going to have a cold February and March. Unfortunately, that seems to be the way things have been going, is that our winter has been starting later the last couple of years, where December is kind of ho-hum, January is now ho-hum, and everything gets kind of shoved back towards when we want it to warm up. So I do see a cold February and March. I don't think we're done with the Arctic outbreaks back. Brent traveling to Cleveland in the morning. Brent, have a good trip. No problems for you whatsoever. Dave, thank you. That's very awesome. Phoebe, I'm glad you enjoyed the explanation. Hi, David. Thanks for joining us here tonight, buddy. Dave, I didn't know that. That's awesome. That's great. That's good stuff. Thank you, guys. Rick, you're welcome. Ann, you're welcome. Russ, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, Victor, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. We now do New Jersey. So, you know, any weather questions you have, buddy, just keep them coming. No problem. Alexis, you're welcome. Mark, I appreciate that. Yeah, I remember forecasting when I was down in Georgia. That, I'll be honest, Mark, that was a little tougher because, you know, we'd be sitting there in the 60s and 70s with tornadoes approaching or whatever it happens to be, and I would be forecasting the snow in Northwest Indiana while I was down there. So that was pretty tough for sure. All right. That's okay, Nick. That's fine. And you can always go back and watch, but I'll fill you in real quick. And then we'll let you guys go tonight, okay? So, Nick, in terms of timing of this is going to move in. The snow's going to move in before daybreak on Wednesday. We're going to see snow overspread Northwest Indiana. I really don't think – I think our morning rush hour is going to be impacted because we'll have snow around, okay? We'll have slick travel. Not a huge event, but we'll have slick travel around. The heaviest snow looks to stay down where you're seeing some of the heaviest predicted totals down towards Indianapolis. For us, we'll likely stay in probably a light to moderate snowfall for much of the day Wednesday. That heavy snowfall is going to be really close to us, so that's why we have to keep an eye on the track of this low, because if it shifts at all, we're talking a different ball game around here on Wednesday. But as of right now, I think we're going to stay light to moderate snow for much of the day. It's not going to be a huge deal, but it is going to get slick around here. We're going to have snow-covered roads, and we are going to have, I think, 3 to 6 inches out of this. As of right now, it's kind of at the lower end, probably 3, 4, 5. But again, the track of that low tomorrow, we'll have a really good idea. And again, this is not a blockbuster storm. It's a snow. It's a snow, and it's January, so we can deal with it, okay? But if you're driving Wednesday morning, Wednesday evening commute, it's going to be snow covered around here, okay? No kidding. Tommy moved to Fairfield, Ohio. That's awesome. And now back home in Northwest Indiana. I have not been to Jungle Gyms. Tommy, in elementary school, I had to write, we had to pick a county in Ohio, and we had to write a letter to them just asking more information. I think it's third grade. And I actually wrote to Fairfield County. So it's very interesting. I don't remember anything about the county, but there's that. Amy, I didn't. I went to The Ohio State University for my degree in meteorology. But when I was the chief meteorologist at WYIN in Northwest Indiana, I would always have Valpo interns, weather interns, and a lot of them have gone on to be very successful. Justin Gee is one of them I think of. Stephanie Baroncello, I think her last name was. They ended up getting married. They were actually dating during the internship, and I didn't know that. But they're both meteorologists. I think they're still in Milwaukee. And we've had a couple other ones that have gone across the country as well. So we worked very closely with Valpo. Also, there was a game show that I hosted in Northwest Indiana that featured area high schools competing against each other. It was a quiz show, and we would film at Valpo University. That was fun. I wish I could do that again. But anyway, there's that. JB, about time you joined us, buddy. I appreciate that. Ruth, yeah, we'll do another update tomorrow. I think it's important that we get ahead of the storm and just to make sure everything's still on track, okay? Russ, I appreciate that. Yeah, anything to help you guys out in the plow world, because I'll tell you what, it's been a slow winter for you, and I know that is liquid gold that's falling from the sky in the wintertime for you. Let's see. Snipes, that's a good question for you in St. Louis with the 5 to 10. I don't think that... that's a big range, though. So it could end up being 5. I think you're right in line with that. The Euro, you notice the Euro drags it a little bit further south of you. So the Euro has more 2 to 4 for you. It just depends on where that low tracks. I think the GFS is the one that's ramping up your totals in St. Louis a little higher. So it all hinges on how much moisture gets wrapped on the backside of this. And again, where that low goes. So I don't think that's an overestimation. I think it's a very safe estimation at this point with the 5 to 10 for you, okay? Maxwell asked a really good point, and this is another good meteorological question here. Could the storms down to the south rob the system of this moisture? I don't think so in this case, Maxwell. And what he's talking about, let me zoom out. So down to the south, here's what he's talking about. So down here, Mississippi, Louisiana, we talked, there's going to be a severe weather threat for them, okay? Probably tornado outbreak along the Gulf Coast. Oftentimes, what you're doing in a storm system like this is you're bringing moisture from the Gulf down here up into the storm system. And when you have a line of storms down towards the Gulf of Mexico, sometimes the moisture is trying to go this way towards us, right? Sometimes that line of storms can kind of squash that moisture flow where the moisture doesn't get to us and we kind of dry out. And Maxwell, I think our problem initially is going to be that we're not going to have enough moisture to begin with. Most of it's going to be sucked up by this low over here. So, here's where all the moisture is wrapping right around that low. That's why I think we have lower snowfall totals in the 3 to 6 inch range. Again, more towards 3, 4 probably, because the moisture doesn't quite get here initially. So the storms down to the south should be more oriented in a southwest to northeast line. So the moisture should flow just fine out ahead of that. It's when they kind of collapse on the Gulf and go more, aligning with I-10 or I-20 down there when we start to squash that moisture flow. But there's that. So let's see. Julie has cousins living in the Cleveland area. Very good, Julie. I'm sure they're good folks. Victor, great question. Best advice to become a successful meteorologist. Victor, Maxwell, you're welcome. No problem. The best advice I would have for anyone that wants to become a meteorologist, I know there are some kids that watch this with their parents, which is awesome, I would start with a weather journal, literally keeping track of the weather every day, uh, whatever that happens to be, and start looking for trends. It gets really fun once you get to the next year of that and you can compare it versus last year. It's not the same looking all this stuff up online. It's not. To actually observe it and write down some comments on, exactly what you observed that day. Um, if you want to be more on the TV social side of things, it's never too early to start a some kind of social media channel where you talk about weather. Between weather and sports, those are two things that you can always talk about because it's always changing. There's always new content on that. So you'll never run out of something to say. And, you know, the other thing, Victor, is, when I was little, I used to practice. I used to watch the Weather Channel as a kid, and I would practice in front of the TV. I would turn it on mute, and I would practice doing weather forecasts. Um, and I'm telling you, that just helps tremendously. Outside of getting an internship or something like that, that is certainly the way to go. And the other thing is watch your favorite meteorologist, whoever they happens to be. Notice how they speak about the weather. Notice the words, the connecting words they use between different ideas. Notice how they explain the weather, and just keep listening to that. The more you soak it in, the more you'll become more versed in terms of weather. One of my favorite meteorologists growing up was Tom Skilling. Still is, right? I think the way he explains weather patterns and he goes beyond the forecast is great. He also gets like 5 or 6 minutes to do that every day. Bless you. You're welcome. And he was great, and I would watch him and watch him and watch him and try to soak in as much as I could. There were meteorologists that kind of, I don't want to say annoyed me, but there were annoying things that meteorologists did that I say I never want to do that. One of them is putting a question mark in a forecast. Sometimes meteorologists put like showers on Saturday question mark, and it's like, wait, you're the meteorologist, you tell me. There's a lot of little pet peeves I have. And also Jim Cantori. I would watch him growing up as well. I still watch him today because I think he explains long-term patterns so well. So that's what I would advise for you. I'm sure you didn't want that much information. Tommy, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Tommy, you don't need to send stars. Sponsors do enough for me. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. You're very, very nice. Victor, yes, you do have to go to school. It helps to get a degree in meteorology. There's a lot that you learn in college with meteorology, and it's very heavy in math and science. Don't let that scare you off. Sometimes you can use the buddy system. A lot of classes you'll take tests together as a group because it's that hard, but there's a lot of math and science behind it. So there's that. Okay. Brent wants to see videos. Brent, those are in the archives and they're locked up. So there's that. Okay, everybody, appreciate you joining me on this Monday night. We'll do it again tomorrow night just to kind of fine tune what's going on with the system and let you know if there's any changes. But tell your friends not to click here, okay, on all of the clickbait that's out there. This is going to be a very manageable system. Are we going to get some snow? Yes. Are we going to have some travel that gets a little slippery around here? Sure. But this isn't going to be a huge system for us here locally. It's going to be something we'll be able to handle. Okay. All right. That's it. Guys, enjoy your night. Again, appreciate you joining me, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Okay. All right. Bye.